which drug has the most side effects? Anybody know? Well, I wanted to find out because when I took prednisone, this little baby, I wanted to know because I felt terrible when I was taking it. I felt like it caused so many side effects. It had to be the worst drug, right? That's what I thought. Now, if you feel that way, let me know. Do you feel it? Prednisone makes you feel terrible? Well, I had no way to prove that because it's such an ancient drug. They haven't really done the research on it to show how many side effects it really has. And so I didn't have a way to be like, actually, prednisone causes the most side effects of any drug. So I figured out a way. Let me show you what I did to figure out which drug is truly the worst, causes the most side effects, to see if my hypothesis was correct. Might be a little biased because I suffer a lot, but here we go. Let me show you what I did. So this is a spreadsheet I created. I'm going to simplify it down so it's really easy for you to understand. But essentially what I did is I searched database after database after database and put it all together so that we could figure out which drug causes the most side effects and which of them are the most miserable, which causes the most misery, right? Which person taking a prescription drug is paying the biggest price in misery from side effects. So first thing I did was I went to clincalc.com and got the top 200 drug list. And what they do is they find out the top drugs that were prescribed every single year. They put all the databases of prescriptions together and find out for the most recent year they have is 2018. You can see here we've got the rank, the top drug, and then the drug's name. And so the top prescribed drug in the United States in 2018 was Atorvastatin. And some of the names that they used were not typical names that you would search, like metformin hydrochloride. People don't call it that. They call it metformin. And then some people still call it its brand name, even though it's available generically. And so that would be the brand name of glucophage. So the top drug is Atorvastatin, which is an amazing drug that saves lives for people who've had heart attacks. And it's called Lipitor. 112 million prescriptions in 2018. And you can see down all of these different drugs and how many prescriptions that were dispensed in the United States. So then this next column is how I figured it out, guys. I used search engine optimization. That's what SEO stands for. If somebody Googled it, then they might care. They might be searching for information about that drug itself. And so SEO stands for they Googled it, right? My kids call it they searched it up. And so you go to Google and you type in Atorvastatin, and 450,000 times people searched Atorvastatin into Google. But were they just trying to understand what the drug was, that they weren't really concerned about the side effects? That was what I thought with that search. So then I went for more intent. So most people prescribed these top drugs aren't really concerned about it because they've probably heard about it before. They're probably well informed by their doctor. They wouldn't be the top drugs if they caused a ton of side effects, right? And so in the next column over, you can see the search engine volume for SE. That's side effects. Side effects. So they would have typed Atorvastatin side effects, those three terms together. And those three terms together, it was searched 90,500 times in 2018. So out of 112 million prescriptions, only 90,000 people were searching for side effects. So people aren't necessarily suffering when they take Atorvastatin, right? Or how would doctors prescribe it that many times? So then I wanted to see, okay, if we compare the number of searches for side effects or for the drug name itself to the number of actual side effects listed in drug databases. So this next column, it says the number of side effects in Daily Med, shows the number of side effects listed on the package insert. So this is the prednisone bottle that's at the pharmacy, and normally there's a little packet stuck on the side that has a paper copy of what's called the label that has all of the information about every side effect, every warning, every study, all of the things. It's like folded up into this little tiny packet. And that's how it used to be dispensed. And so that PDF of that little tiny folded up paper is on Daily Med. And so on that paper from the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration of the United States government, what they have the drug company required to say is what's here. So for Atorvastatin, there are 12 side effects listed in Daily Med. So then I looked at the non-FDA required, but what other drug databases volunteered. So this next one is Hippocrates. Sorry, I should have formatted the headers better so you could read it better. Hippocrates is a free online drug database. Anybody can sign up and read it. But what I found in Hippocrates are 36 side effects listed for Atorvastatin. And then I wanted to see if the top drug database, the one with the very most information, it's paid. It's like over $500 a year to get access to this information at clinicalpharmacology.com. And they had 66 side effects listed. Then I added another column. You can see this 25%. So if a side effect happened more than 25% of patients, so for example, a drug causes headaches in more than 25% of people, then I added the number into that column. So then I found out from Micromedics, this is another drug database. And it's also paid. And it's very comprehensive, but not quite as comprehensive. You can see there were 66 in clinical pharmacology, and there's only 17 in Micromedics. And so I'm going to scoot this a little bit more over. So this is the column we were at. I have the description here, and they called it adverse events instead of side effects in their database. And most of them do. Side effects is more of like a common term that we use. And then adverse events is what the scientific term, the medical term for it. And so each adverse event is separated by a comma within Micromedics. And if they included acute, like it was just a really short-term thing, then that's not included in this number. So if it was just something that happened just for a moment, like acute this, acute that, a short-term thing, I didn't include it. And then other mitigating factors, like worsening this or something, I didn't include those extra descriptions. So like if there was 3 different ways to describe headache, there's like chronic headache, acute headache, and something else headache, I only included headache as one thing. And then I only included adults on this. This does not include the pediatric side effects. And then the other detail is I only included things that are for chronic prescriptions, so long-term prescriptions. For example, you could take prednisone for 5 days, or you could have it injected, like the injectable version of this. It's not really called prednisone, but those I didn't include. I'm only interested in the long-term, not in the hospital, things that people take outside of the hospital and are prescription. So that's what it's limited down to. It has to be prescription, has to be from the hospital, out of the hospital, and has to be long-term. So that's how I limited down the data. And so then how I determined within Micromedics if it was really common side effect is if it crossed 25%. So I already described it for clinical pharmacology, but here's precisely one of the things that showed up. It said decrease in appetite was 7.3% to 27.8%. And so that crossed 25%. So I included that as one of the more common side effects. And then after searching all of those databases, I realized that some people might not search for the generic name within Google. And so I added another column for the brand name searches. So if we go back to Atorvastatin, there were 450,000 searches for Atorvastatin, the generic name, but there were 165,000 for Lipitor, the brand name. And then, so I also searched Lipitor side effects. So there were 40,000 searches for Lipitor side effects in Google. So then this next column I'm going to show you on the other tab because I consolidated all of those down and I'm hiding the columns that don't matter now so that you can see this even better. So the top 200 drugs, I made a ratio. So I showed you all the millions of prescriptions. I showed you all the hundreds of thousands of searches. And I consolidated that with the number of side effects showing up in those databases. Because I figured that is the best way to decide whether the side effects are real to a person. Like, they can go through all the studies and find out that 0.01% of people have this fatal side effect. But for a normal person taking it, it's either going to kill them or not. And most likely not. 99.9% of the time, it won't have any effect on them. And so I was interested in side effects that people actually have to deal with in order to take the prescription. So that's how I came up with that ratio. I added up all of those side effect searches, all of the drug name searches and side effect searches, and that's this column. And then I divided it by those prescriptions. So number of searches divided by prescriptions times 1,000. And so in 1,000 prescriptions, 60 people do some sort of a search for either the drug name, the brand drug name, or that combination with side effects. And then, and then right here we have, these are different. So let's do this column first. Column S, the number of side effects in the drug databases. So what I did was I added up all of the side effects that were in Daily Med, Hippocrates, Clinical Pharmacology, and Micromedics. And that's all of the side effects that showed up for that one drug's name. So I'm going to, I see what I did. I sorted it in the wrong way. We need this in smallest to largest. Okay, this is right in the right back into the right order. So back to Atorvastatin. We don't want to look at that other drug. Atorvastatin, there was one, we're going to go over here. There are 131 side effects in all of those databases added up together. Then I added up the side effects and the drug name searches per prescription, divided by prescription. So this is the Google searches divided by the number of prescriptions. So it is that 131 side effects divided by 112 million prescriptions, and then times 1,000 so that it's not such a tiny, tiny number. So in every 1,000 prescriptions, there are 6 searches for Atorvastatin, Lipitor, or side effects. Then I included the ratio of this. I included the SEO, the search engine optimization, with the side effects in the drug databases, and I divided them. And so what you can see, I'm going to show you over here so it's easier to describe because I hid them. So we could, all right. So P is, you can see, it is all of the searches divided by E3, and E3 was the number of prescriptions. So that's E3 is the number of prescriptions And then G3 is the number of searches. So you can see that I added all of the searches and divided by the number of prescriptions. So that's that. And then I multiplied it by 1,000 right here to get the 1.2. And then for this one, I'm going to show you the calculation, what I did. For this one, you can see I did O3. So I did the searches for the brand name, and then all of the searches, and then I divided that by the number of prescriptions. And so that's what that column is. And then, oh, it looks like I broke this one. So this one is just all of the drug databases added up together. So let me fix that. There we go. Okay, so now you can see that I took, so S3 and R3 became this one. Let's see, let's go over here so now you can see it. So now you can see when I put all of that information together, we have prednisone had 7.8 searches per 1,000 prescriptions compared to all of these other ones that are either less than 1 or around 1, with the exception of sertraline had almost 6 and gabapentin had almost 5. But of the other top 25 drugs, it had way, way, way more searches about how harmful it is for people. And this is Tylenol. It's another name for Tylenol, and it's not a prescription drug. And so what you can see is that 33 almost people were searching just for those terms. And then when you do the ratio, it was 7.8. So consolidating that all down into one takeaway is people on prednisone suffer more than anybody else based on search engine volume and the number of side effects that show up on results. You can see that all of the drug databases have 275 side effects. So they could be the same side effects, like it could be headache in 4 different databases, but when you add them all up, it has 275. And that's more than any of, oops, I don't want to ruin that. That's more than any of the drugs before it. The only one that even can compete is Prozac. And the only reason Prozac can compete in the number of side effects listed in all those databases is because Prozac is a new drug and the research was done. Whereas with prednisone, it's an old drug and the research wasn't even done and they still have 275 side effects. Nobody actually knows how many side effects there are to prednisone because there was no drug company forced to ever do that. It was grandfathered in. And so when there's a new drug like Prozac, they were forced to study thousands of people and find out precisely the number of side effects per prescription. And so even without that information actually studied, prednisone still wins for all the drugs before it, and yet it is being prescribed more than ever. The prescribing of prednisone has gone up 42% in the last 10 years. It's unbelievable. So even though it's miserable, even though it's being prescribed more than ever, it just, people are suffering. And so what I did is I combined all of those side effect lists because they were all a little bit different, and I created the ultimate list of prednisone side effects. And I'm going to drop a link below so that you can search that and you can be like, is this actually a side effect to prednisone or not? And then once you find out if it is or isn't, you can scroll to the bottom and sign up to get the prednisone checklist, which will help you find out what to do with those side effects, because prednisone causes so many side effects, and I can help you cope with the top 25 side effects. I've got tips in there that are evidence-based. I believe in going through all of the information that is available about prednisone and consolidating it down and sharing with you what is most actionable and helpful. I'm here to help you not just survive prednisone, but thrive while on prednisone. Signing off is Dr. Megan, the Prednisone Pharmacist.